Okay, so responding to comments or comment singular. Oops. So user IL6IW9JF2V says, "Let it be, Mother Mary said so." I think that's a lyric from a song, I think. Am I right? Not sure. So, Jalaja Bonheim asks, "I feel very confused about discipline. I see the value of setting a time that's dedicated to some form of practice. Yet my ego resists it fiercely, and I often feel an inner sense of conflict during meditation." So does it feel like something you have to do? You mentioned discipline. My understanding of discipline is something that true discipline is doing something you don't want to do because you have to do it, or that you're not wanting to do it is made irrelevant by the purpose. But does it feel like something that you have to do is to have a designated period of practice, of disciplined practice? Or is it something that you look forward to doing, like a leisurely hobby, activity, something you really enjoy, or something that you feel that you're doing for a purpose? Because the purpose-driven thing can get tricky. It can also be useful. It kind of depends on the person, I suppose. In my experience, when I was trying to meditate, trying hard to meditate, it never worked because of the assumption of me trying to do something made the felt sense of me as a separate thing doing something to get something more pronounced, and that I felt got in the road, in a sense, created more resistance, residual resistance, and, like you said, inner conflict. But when there was no objective other than the enjoyment of what's here right now, things started to change, and it became clear that it wasn't about getting something or realizing a part of me, of you, of the self that is an experience for the self, or getting some realization that confirms a sense of identity, a sense of self more. Like, there's the idea that I'm going to experience awakening, and it's going to do something for me, or it's going to expand my sense of identity. My experience is not like that. It's about letting go of that urgency, that feeling, that felt sense of me trying to get something. And what's revealed is this as it is anyway, and there's a very impersonal, non-conceptual, ungraspable feeling to it. It's not like you suddenly realise that I am. People talk about I am. It's not like you suddenly realise that I am infinite consciousness, or I am so and so. It's in my experience, at least, it wasn't like that. It was, the mind framed it like that afterwards as a story about an experience that happened to me. But the recognition was very simple, in that it's here already. and it doesn't feel or seem like the mind, the identity from this position thought it was going to be like for me. It looks for something that it thinks it has a vague idea of, and that creates a tension, a resistance. But it's here anyway, and it's you anyway, and that doesn't have to be confirmed by a thought or anything. It's just this as it is anyway, and there's no specific quality about it that can be clutched onto as a confirmation of yes, this is awakening. If you can kind of get the sense for that, it's just not like that. It's impersonal in a way, although very deep, very intimate in a way, but not in the way that the mind thinks it is. So sometimes sitting down to engage in something has a pre-assumption, an assumption made in there that I am me sitting down to meditate, and I am me doing something for me. And it's what I'm always pointing to is letting go of that, and what this is, when let's say when you let go of that, doesn't have any limits or boundaries or time periods. Although I have said before that the in certain circumstances, I suppose the designated time period can be useful, but ultimately it ends up where there's no distinction between meditation and life. That distinction is seen to just be a simple narrative. The ego resists it. So I would suggest, just off the bat, something you can engage in, a doing of something that, is inherently enjoyable, is inherently simple, and doesn't involve complex thinking or analysis. Walking was the one for me. Being more and more fully immersed in the scenery that's here, appreciating more and more simply this as it is, for the sake of that, with no purpose. Pardon me. My experience, that's when things started to change, but not because there was a will imposed on reality for it to change by a person from this position looking to get something or achieve a state. It was a letting go, a relaxation, and an acceptance of what is as it is, without any resistance to that, as in a subtle, this isn't right, my thoughts are getting in the road and so on. It's not the thoughts, it's the felt sense of me struggling with thought, the felt sense of me thinking. Now that's a thought as well, but it's I guess you could say it's the thought behind all the thoughts. The thought that links, the thought of me that links all the thoughts together in a narrative that suggests this is happening to me, or I'm struggling with thought, or I'm trying not to think and thoughts keep appearing. Yes, that itself is another thought, but the me thought, the felt sense of separate identity, or the thinker, the one struggling with thoughts, is more subtle than that. It's more behind the content of the thoughts, in a suggestion of continuity, and you can feel it. It's a felt accumulation. I feel like me. I feel like the thinker. I feel like I am the one in control of thoughts. It doesn't have to say that in a narrative sense. It just immediately feels like that before the thoughts start thinking or appearing, for the owner of the thoughts, or the experience, or the thinker of the thoughts. So when there isn't an inherent resistance with a practice that feels tricky or difficult, for example, say you're exercising, or someone recently said that they had an awakening experience when they were exercising listening to music. Something where that tension has relaxed, that struggle with the mind has relaxed, and the purpose isn't enlightenment or awakening, it's just the simple enjoyment of what is, without grasping, without clinging, without projection, or a sense of the way it should be or shouldn't be, or a sense of inner conflict. Such that even the intention, the idea of meditation as a practice isn't so much there. Just the present experience of aliveness is, you could say, enhanced by doing something that you enjoy. And that is a perfect place for inquiry, because that allows the mind to calm down to an extent such that this deeper assumption can become clear. Something can recognize itself as not that. And when it recognizes itself as not that, it doesn't then, well, thought does this, but it doesn't then re-identify with a larger, more infinite, more awake identity. It's not that, it's just what's here anyway, in the absence of what you're not. It doesn't particularly feel like anything, and the thoughts about what it's going to be like aren't accurate, and it doesn't need to be confirmed with a thought when it so-called happens, because it never happens. The thought that says it happens appears with the context and the assumption of time on top of that, on top of the infinite. That which doesn't have a start or an end, that which is always awake, that has no boundaries or can't be thought about, can't be confined by definition. But when the thoughts calm down, it might be something completely unconventional, where the objective isn't to calm the thoughts down. Because if a thought says, I'm going to not think, or I'm going to calm thoughts down, what happens is the thoughts get worse, because there's a me resisting my thoughts, and they're not your thoughts. They just happen on their own. Thoughts just appear. The letting go of the need for them to be there or not seems to calm them down. And another thing that's just very helpful is to tune into the direct, immediate sensory experience of aliveness, the present feeling experience of aliveness, without any question about, is my mind quiet, is my mind not quiet, so on and so on, such that the thoughts don't become, they're not important anymore. It's not a big fixation, they're not important to me anymore. I don't have to exert energy to try and calm these thoughts down, because the thoughts are the problem. Because it's not the thoughts that are the problem. I can't exactly tell you what the problem is, but it seems to be a accumulation of thoughts with belief, felt, reality, an assumption that I am me, I'm the thinker of my thoughts, and I can control that. Like you said, I saw that you said that here, it doesn't matter. That itself is another thought. But there doesn't need to be another thought to confirm that as a thought. All there needs to be is the letting go into what is, the thought or not. A releasing, a dilation, a relaxation, an acceptance of, if there are thoughts, there are thoughts, if there are not, they're not. But I have no control over that. Thought seems to appear, come and go. The objective world seems to appear, come and go. You relax further and further back into what doesn't come and go, was always here, never not here, but it can't be found. I think I skipped it down a wee bit there. Where are we? Now a thought appears. Why would I choose to constrict myself in any way, given that my deepest desire is for complete freedom and boundlessness? But of course that is merely another thought. Yeah, because you can, it's not a choice. The choice is an illusion. There's no one choosing there. There's no you choosing to constrict yourself into a limited entity, a limited me. It's just reality has come about that way. It's a pattern, it's a process, it's a habitual pattern that seems to have created momentum such that it feels very real. It senses that I am real, I am the thinker, I am in control of thoughts, and I choose to do this, I choose to do that, I choose to identify, I choose to wake up. And hard to describe, but it doesn't happen like that. The exiting of this is here, and there's no, ultimately there's no choice there. There just is what is. You could argue with that statement, but I say that because the letting go of the need to control, the letting go of that need to control or resist this illusory entity that we now know at some level is illusory, into this as it is the exit from that illusion. Trying to get rid of the illusion, trying to dispel the illusion can be likely to reinforce that illusion. If we're moving from that one step forwards into separation, from that one step past the assumption of the thinker into the dealing with thoughts, the trying to control thoughts, resisting thoughts, and labeling thought experience as good or bad, letting go into what is here before the thinker comes online is the exit to that, and it's a backwards step, it's a backwards process. It's not a moving forward to attain something as a me. It's a stepping back, let's say, sinking back into what's before me that's here as it is already, that the me finds boring because it doesn't understand. So the me keeps coming back online as an assumption about I'm doing something, I'm trying to wake up. This thought appears, and then the me assumes itself. I thought that thought. I shouldn't be thinking this much. Why isn't this working? Something like that. And that deepest desire for complete freedom and boundlessness, again, is at the ultimate level is an illusion. Because that's what this is anyway. So the desire to become that, or to realise or achieve that, is an action of the character, an action of the me. I'm not saying it's not a necessary action, and I'm not saying that there isn't choice. But the character never is there to choose. Not in the way it thinks it is. It's not there to understand. It's not there to confirm its own absence or confirm an experience of enlightenment. And isn't there to achieve liberation or freedom or boundlessness, because that's outside its capabilities. That's what it is anyway. That's what it's made of, you could say. The substance of reality of this experience, the experience that then becomes an illusory character separate from the world moving through it, is in essence pure liberation, pure enlightenment, pure freedom anyway. So the attaining of that isn't gonna happen. It isn't, but I'm trying to point back the way that this is a backwards process. This is a process of undoing, of releasing or noticing of that act of creation of a me, a character that needs to find something that happens right now in what could be a single thought, or a thought that goes on to inform and reflect another thought, creating the illusion of continuity in time. What I'm saying is the exit point to that, if there is one, is here, is this already. It's right here. And then watch for the movement away from that into a seeming story about an illusory character that's actively done, habitually, just happens. Just watch for that from no particular location. And eventually you see you're not that, and the you that sees you're not that isn't a you. It's this, as it is anyway, which is the essence of what you are, but not in the sense of the personal identity, if that makes any sense. But you see, of course, that's merely another thought. That merely another thought is never seen as such from the character. The character is a thought. It can communicate with that, with itself that way, but it can't get out of itself, because you can't get out of something that's not real. It just continues to bounce about, move around, creating this distraction, this illusion that seems and feels like me. That never stops in the way that it thinks it's going to stop as an experience for itself, because it never happened. It's not real. The experience of thought, the experience of feeling, the experience of this sensory, whatever this is real. But that character in there, at the centre of it all, that me that's separate from it all, that's the thinker, that's the experiencer, isn't real. So it never has to stop, because it doesn't exist in the first place, and it never does stop. You can say the thoughts calm down when they don't need to calm down. It's not insisted that they do calm down, because it's seen that it doesn't matter, because thought's not the problem. It's seen that me, like you said, is another thought, and it just doesn't matter anymore, and you just let it go. It's not a thing anymore. It's not a big thing. You're not looking from that anymore to try and fix something. You just see that it's irrelevant, and you let it go. But again, there's no you that's letting it go. It just seems to not become so important anymore. And what's more important, what's more immediate, is this, whatever this is, that's simultaneously seen to be that thought that appears now, right now, immediately, right now. It's this slight distance from immediacy that creates the suggestion of continuity in time, of a back then and an over there, of a in the future, a sense of here and over there. These dualities don't exist in immediacy, in simple, relaxed immediacy. These dualities don't exist. They're being created, they're being assumed and created through some sort of thought augmentation, some sort of story interpretation of this from the point of view of a separate mind. I've been experimenting with a kind of timed practice where my only intention is to do exactly what I want. That sounds good. Still, there is a sense of confusion, and I would so appreciate your hearing your take on this question of discipline and spiritual practice. I would say the more simple the better, the less plan the better. The less application of something as practice for something, the better. The practice becomes so simple that it's just always immediately accessible here. It doesn't have to be a dedicated time because eventually it's seen that there is no time that can be separated up into segments. I'm not saying that can't be useful at times, but ultimately it's just this. Your access to this is infinite, and it's right here. Tuning into that felt sense of presence, forgetting about the thoughts, existence. The most obvious, immediate, simple experience of aliveness that there is. The most overt is just this immediate sensory appearance, this direct experience of aliveness. Continually come back to that. Continually come back to that. Might be more pleasant and enjoyable and easy in certain circumstances, and more difficult in others, but as much as possible, continually come back to this. Nothing's needed, nothing needs to be added, nothing needs to be confirmed from a point of view, an interpretation by a character. You don't need to think about it. You just need to feel this. Simple sense of being. Simple sense of thisness. It's nowhere else other than here, right now. Relax into that, and then watch for this felt sense of me as a thinker, that sense of urgency, that sense of doing something, having to do something, feeling like this isn't right, this isn't the right experience, this isn't already liberation, this isn't already perfect. Watch for that starting to come online. And how does it feel? How does that experience feel? Notice that and then come back to this. You could even look at the thought. What will be the next thought? It may be quiet and simple for a while. As a thought comes in, that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean the awakeness is gone. It doesn't mean you have become an enlightened. Quietness of mind doesn't mean that this is enlightenment. In comparison to busy mind, that's not enlightenment. When the thought comes, recognize it as such. What does it feel like? Does it feel like I'm thinking? What makes it feel like that? What makes the thought so important? What does it refer to? What does that thought refer to? I mean, what I'm saying now is just fuel for more thinking, but come back, just look. What will be the next thought? Come back. Anchor yourself, let's say, in this as it is. It doesn't matter if the thought comes, just look at the thought. Attentively, let's say, be aware of the thought as it appears. What is that? What is that thought? Don't worry about achieving a quiet mind over time. Just what's here now. What will be the next thought? When the thought appears, is there any sense of urgency or grasping or resistance or repulsion? If there's any physical, visceral sense of that, just go directly into the felt sense, the physical, the feeling, the emotion of it. You're going more deeply and deeply into yourself right here as this. Not worrying about achieving something or attaining a state or the future. Not worrying about any other suggested experience other than just what is right now. Not resisting what is right now in any form it appears. And just appreciate this as it is, without any insistence that it be any sort of way, or without any urgency that's waiting for a better experience in the future, or looking for a subtle something else. It's not this. Anyway, that'll need to do it. I'll talk to you next time.